today, actually, we have got a super pilot joining us, Rafael Saladini, 3 times Brazilian national champion, over 3 times world record distance, free distance holder. And if that was not enough, the latest Pan American Champion 2020, also winner of PWC task in Pico do Gavião. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rafael Saladini.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. English is not my first language, but I will do my best to answer the questions as long as I can and as far as I know.
Rafa, welcome to the thermal. And your English sounds pretty good to me, so I'm sure we're going to have a great interview. Thank you for being here. And Rafa, well, for those that don't know you, maybe we can do a little bit of history. And can you tell us when did you start flying, Rafa? When did the magic started happening?
It depends. I tried once when I was 17, back in 1999. But then I was so irresponsible. I suffered an accident in Pico do Gavião and broke my hip. And stayed for 4 or 5 years away from paragliding. And then my second attempt was in 2003. And then I started really on 2003. And flew until 2008. And then stop again, come back on 2014. So I have many comebacks in paragliding.
Okay, and how old are you now?
I'm 37. Yeah, I'm gonna turn 38 in October. No.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit then about the second starting of your paragliding career after you broke your hip and you came back to the sport. I mean, how was it? Did you go straight into cross-country flying? Was that your thing from the beginning?
I have a cousin that he was already a PWC pilot. His name is Rodrigo Monteiro. And he was my biggest inspiration in that time because he was raised up beside me. He's he's my brother. So he was an example to me, and I tried to follow him as much as I can. It was really difficult because he was really good already, and I was like, my beginning was a bit, even in my return, my beginning was a bit kind of disaster. I was the kind of guy that I would take off and people would put their hands in the head and say, "Oh my God, he's coming," I was a kind of dangerous pilot in the beginning. It took me around 2 or 3 years to actually understand what I was doing and stop doing, commit stupid mistakes.
But that's very surprising, and I'm sure it will be very hopeful for a lot of people out there. How it comes? I mean, were you just reckless? I mean, were you just doing stupid things, or you were not really good at it? You were not getting...
In 1999, I have a friend that he was one of the inspiration to start paragliding, Olímpio Faisal. He's a Brazilian.
Yes, I know Olímpio.
Yeah, and Olímpio took off from Pico do Gavião and started thermaling in front of the launch. And I tried to do the same, but I didn't have the experience to do that. So the first turn I did, I came back to the takeoff and crashed in the rocks on the north takeoff. So, I mean, it was not a fault from the sport. I mean, it never is. But in my case, was even worse. Was a stupidity actually. So, and after that, I suffered little accidents, even in my return. So I'm sure I'm a big inspiration for those who are feeling a bit out of control right now.
There is hope.
Oh yeah.
That's very cool. And well, you start flying I'm doing math in my head, and 2003 you come back to the sport for a second time or around there. In 2007 already you beat your first world record, your first open distance world record. So you actually, despite having a slow start or a bad start, you progressed really fast. And what's that progression? What would you attribute that progression to? When was the moment when you clicked and you started flying better?
I believe we as human beings, we grow up when we connect each other, when we share experiences. I know some people that they can learn by their own, isolated from the world. But in my case, was completely the opposite. I had my cousin, I had Olympio, and I had a big connection because my cousin was already connected to all the best Brazilian pilots and even world pilots. So I had the opportunity to actually take this shortcut, the shortcut of having nice friends and nice connections to actually don't need to learn all of it by myself. So once you have a nice shortcut, nice people surrounding you, I believe it's much easier to learn and much easier to evolve.
You're
And I started to compete a lot ever since I started to fly, you know, because my cousin was already competing. So trying to follow him, I actually became a competition pilot since the beginning. And cross country in Brazil, I mean, probably Brazil is one of the countries that you can fly the most the whole year. Our country is a continent, and we can fly the whole year. It depends where you go, you know. So the amount of hours we can accumulate here in Brazil is huge. And as a young pilot, I could actually seize this advantage.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Brazilian nation, the nation itself, has got like 40 competitions a year in between all the different regional leagues and the Brazilian nationals, right? I think there's something crazy, like 40 competitions.
Yeah. I don't have this number in my head now, but I believe that's right.
Yeah. It's amazing, and then we start flying competitions. You progress fast, but what about the place then? Because you guys have been chasing your records mostly in the Brazilian Northeast, and what can you tell us about it? What's so special about this place in comparison to
others? I think we have to come back some chapters. When I started to fly back in the 90s, all the record chasers, they were talking about the amount of hours you can fly. So they would look to places outside the tropics, like Texas or South Africa or Australia, and they would say, okay, those are the best places because they have more sun, more amount of light. You know, they have around 14 hours. And people started to try to fly big distances in Brazilian Sertão. But back in the 90s, even with the effort of André Fleury, who was already breaking tandem world records in Ceará, people would ignore the northeast of Brazil. They would think, no, the northeast of Brazil, it only has a 12-hour solar window. So if we compare to the 14-hour of Texas, South Africa, and Australia, Brazil is behind. But after studying a lot and investing for 20 years in the place, we actually expanded so much the flyable hours. Back in 1999, we would fly like 6-7 hours, and now we're flying almost 12. So this was a big effort from this team, from this Brazilian team that was actually trying to expand the potential of our country. And because of that, we managed to fly even more hours. Our longest flight is almost 1 hour longer than the longest flight from the other places. So that shows us that we are in the right track, and we did a nice job to actually prove the potential of Brazil and put it in the main zone of cross-country flight in the world, you know.
And Rafa, when you talk about sunlight, are you talking about the legal hours to fly in? I mean, is this
from dawn to dusk? Yeah,
from dawn to dusk?
Yeah,
half an hour.
Yeah. I mean, we have tolerance of in some countries. We have some 30 minutes after sunset. We have some tolerances. It's not so exactly from sunrise to sunset. Sometimes we have tolerances.
And what about then the flying? I mean, if you're talking about 12 hours, how early do you guys are airborne?
Well, it depends. I took off already at 5, a quarter after 5, like 5:15. This was one day that me and Marcelo, we were really afraid about the strong wind that was predicted to after 6 a.m. So we took off 5:15 just to test. And we were like for 1 hour and a half soaring the takeoff, waiting for the right time to go, because before 7 it was really weak, you know. And when we were exactly on the right time to take off, which is usually 6:10, 6:15, we saw like 3 I don't know, ENC or END gliders taking off from the takeoff without any problems, and we were really mad about it. But I mean, you can take off as early as 5 and land as late as 6:30 if you want. We have thermals over there until early night, but of course we never tried that because there is no point. It's risky. You're not gonna risk your life to fly just a few kilometers more, and it's against the rule also to fly throughout the night because we don't have special equipment for that.
This then if we talk a little bit then about the flying, given that we are now in the topic, let's start with the takeoff. The takeoff look pretty ballsy. I mean, takeoffs look pretty scary. Is that one of the cruxes then? You start your flight in the crux. You start your flight in the difficult bit.
Yeah, we actually, before we started to tow, the feeling was exactly like going to war. I've never been in a war, but let's say that in my dreams, I have this feeling that I would, die. And taking off, going to the takeoff in those conditions, sometimes, especially in the record days with strong wind predictions, it's really scary. You have to eat, you have to go to the toilet, you have to do all your,
all your needs.
In the early hours, and you're like, sometimes you're like shaking of fear sometimes, especially me, because I'm not a brave, courageous pilot that want to be the Superman. I really go to launch like with a lot of fear. But now we have the towing, and the towing, I mean, it's all good, you don't have that feeling anymore. So especially now that I have a kid, she's like almost 2, and I don't want to risk my life for flying a bit further anymore, So the towing for me right now is the best choice I can make.
Congratulations, Rafa. What's her name?
Thank you. Eva.
Eva.
Yeah.
Hi, Eva. I'm sure we will have her in the thermal in a few years as well.
Oh yeah. I hope so.
We'll continue with the tradition. That's yes. We all have seen the takeoffs from Quixada and Tashima on videos, and yes, they look very, very full on. And at what time do people need to stop taking off then? I mean, normally it must get too strong, right? If you start
It depends on the day, but the majority of the days, we actually started to launch early, not to expand our flying window only, but because of security. If we used to launch over there at 9, sometimes 10, 11, back in the 90s. For me, this is completely insane. You go to a launch in those conditions with extreme wind, and then the thermals, they just make it even stronger. I saw some takeoffs really scary from the 90s, and I don't think I would be a explorer over there if I had to launch 11 a.m. But at 6:30, it's not so strong. You do have a laminar wind, a strong laminar wind, but it's not so. You don't have the thermals, that chaotic feeling of
that turbulence.
Yeah,
that the gusts.
the
And
gust.
does that comes down in the evening? For example, if people goes
Oh
flying
yeah,
to these
yeah,
places, it gets sweet afterwards again.
yeah. At 3 p.m., 3:30, you have to take care about the Aracati also. There is this wind. Sometimes it's a bit
Arakachi.
mythical, but it exists. It's a wind that comes from the sea breeze that actually hits the continent and blow until the middle of the continent over there, which is really strong and take some pilots unaware of it, and it can hurt. It doesn't have a lot of turbulence, but only dynamic turbulence of objects, because the wind is steady and laminar. It's not with it's really late in the afternoon.
And
But it's not every day. So yeah.
And this happens both in Tasima and Quixadá, or mostly in Tasima, which is closer to the sea?
No, mostly in Quixadá. Aracati is actually a city on the coast of Ceará. Mostly in Quixadá, Patu, and these places. Tasima in the evening, usually it drops because it's so strong throughout the day that it drops late afternoon.
Okay. And what about the flying, Rafa? The takeoffs are really difficult and challenging because of the strong conditions. But how is it like once you are in flight?
Once you take off, it's like playing chess in the beginning. You have to survive. I think the main problem of newcomers, especially even PwC pilots, have a bunch of friends from PwC that they try to fly a world record in Ceará, in northeast of Brazil, and things didn't go well because people go there thinking about numbers, and I think that's a crucial mistake. You shouldn't think about the distance you want to cover, but you should think about surviving and flying the whole flyable window first. So once you dominate the solar window, take off at 6 a.m. and land at 6 p.m. Once you can survive for more than 11 hours, then you're ready to try to fly faster. Because if you don't know how to fly for 11 hours, you're never ready for the whole potential of it. So that's what I say, what I tell my friends and people that ask me how to fly in cross country, anywhere. Never focus on a number. Focus on the amount of hours you should fly. It's completely the opposite of a marathon. In a marathon, an athlete has to first complete the 42K, then try to fly faster. So the distance is fixed and the time is variable. In aerial marathon is the opposite. The distance is variable, but the time is fixed. So first you should try to dominate the fixed variable, which is the time. You can launch 6 a.m. and take off at 6 p.m. It doesn't matter how far you go. Just try to dominate this solar window. And after you do that, then think about how to go faster.
Wow. That's It looks obvious now that you say it, Rafa. But yeah, that's thank you for that. That's pretty good value. Yeah. And so conditions in the air, they must be very tough from 6 o'clock in the morning. Lots of drift in the thermals and but weak thermals, right? So and you have got the mental pressure of I might mess up a good day in the first 20K kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then at what time does the day start getting better, and how strong does it get? I mean, is this like a Spanish summer midday when you're really strong thermals with very sharp edges and you're catching it all the time, pretty physical flying, or is it smooth? I mean, how is it when it starts getting on?
In my experience, I have probably, I don't know how many hours in Sertão, but in my experience, Sertão is not the strongest place regarding thermals because of the wind. The wind is like regulates the whole atmosphere over there. The heat doesn't stay so much attached to its trigger because the wind triggers it, So it's a constant. The wind claims a constant triggering role in the whole system of the atmosphere. So if you consider, for example, the center west of Brazil, the capital city of Brasilia, where where they hold already worlds, hang gliding worlds, and many competitions already. That place can be even stronger. You can catch like a 10 meters per second thermal, 12 meters per second thermal. And of course in Sertão also, if you go to the wrong place and hit the wrong lee side of a mountain, probably you can get a plus 10 meters per second thermal. But usually it's like 3, 5 in the morning, 2.5. And the main question, the main focus is not the number and how strong the thermals are, but the average of each of them throughout the day. Sometimes we have a very nice beginning, and then in the afternoon it's messy. And against our common sense, I should say, if you study a bit the track logs from the big flights in Brazilian Sertão, you will see that the speed averages in the morning are even higher than the speed averages from the afternoon. And then we think, okay, but how come? Because in the afternoon, the cloud bases are much higher. For example, we start in a 700 meter above the ground cloud base, and in the end of the afternoon is like 3,000 meters above the ground. So then you think, okay, so in the afternoon it's much easier to fly. It depends, because the distance of the thermals are bigger, the sinks are stronger, the amount of energy you lose in with verticals, going up and down are huge and takes time. So usually in the morning the thermals are closer, the cloud base is lower, and then you just jump from one cloud base to another, and it's much faster.
Oh, and when you say about faster, what's a fast average speed, ground average speed for you guys, and what's the perfect number? What's high and what's the perfect number?
We basically we take the total distance we want to cover, and then we split the amount of hours we have by the amount of time we have, and then you can see how many kilometers per hour you have to fly. So the answer for your question, it depends how far we want to fly. Every record has a new target of speed, average speed. Every record has some how can I say partial points, partial objectives, like how can I say steps that you have to follow and reach to actually fulfill the whole mission.
Like sorry? Like subdivision, you subdivide the
exactly.
flight, and then
we subdivide the day by 8. you know. So it's eight pieces that you have to cover the average speed in every one of them with a certain tolerance and a certain, how can I say, okay, if I'm in the cloud base but a bit late, I'm okay. But if I'm late and I'm really low, then forget about it. So our strategy right now is to actually keep our team motivated and our team in shape. So we don't want to spend time anymore flying just for fun over there, you know. And that's not that's good and bad, because we lose this, you know, funny side of just having fun flying for flying. But that's our way of having fun, you know, getting a difficult mission and trying to fulfill it with discipline and you know, behavior, a certain behavior, like a method. So that's what we try now. With our method, we save our energy. We abort 95% of our flights just to keep focus on the objective. That's the way we work. I'm not sure if it's right or wrong, but it's been working. Huh?
It seems like it. Yeah. After 23 years, guys, and in I don't know how many world records in the last 3 years, over 4 of them, it's absolutely amazing. And in that topic, then, how?
But it's a bit difficult to keep your motivation, huh? Because especially in Tacima, because okay, we stay in a city which is called Araruna. It has like 300 meters of height, and it's really fresh. You have a sea breeze coming, and it's not so hot and uncomfortable. It's really comfortable to be there. However, you don't have nothing to do. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're gonna drink like bottles and bottles of beer the whole day. So you have to get a balance between flying, aborting the flights, and not getting crazy. You know, keeping your sanity in control. You know, otherwise you just lose control and just leave. I see a lot of pilots coming to Tacima. They cannot fly because it's not so good, or the wind's too strong, or they are bumping out a lot in the first 50Ks, which are the most difficult part of the flight. And then they just give up after 2 weeks because they can't hold anymore that situation of not flying and being in the middle of Brazilian sertão with not so many things to do and only drinking beer, you know.
Yeah, that was the. And what do you do? I mean, what do you do as a team to keep yourself motivated? Are you, I don't know.
We bring bikes, we go hiking, we work out, we play chess, we play cards, we do barbecues. We try to get ourselves, we read to get ourselves busy, you know, and yeah. I'm sure by now, you know, everybody knows how to fulfill their time, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's not easy when you're in a new place and when there is absolutely nothing to do. But you guys obviously have brought your own entertainment as well. And Rafa, and going back as well to keeping yourself entertained and motivated, you guys started breaking world distance records in 2007. That's a very long time ago, and you have continued doing so. So what's the main difference that you find between the first world record and your last one, for example? Has anything changed in the approach, in the gear, obviously, but what's the main difference between your first record and the last one? What's there?
Okay, I think we can talk about many fields in this subject. I think the first one is as an athlete. You know, as an athlete, for me, of course, the first one was the biggest achievement of my life, because by then I was a beginner, and I had Marcelo Prieto and Frankie Brown as my masters, and my dream was to fly like them. And suddenly I was managing to break records with them. And then we made it. For me, the whole story behind that story is incredible, because it was the first time that 3 pilots started to share their advantages and give away their little advantages to the team. Actually work for a team. And then was the first time that we reached the goal. So as an athlete, for me, the first world record was much more important, even though the last 2 ones were my consolidation as a good cross-country pilot, and a consolidation of our method also of flying big distances. It doesn't matter the names that are behind the records. It's always 3 of them working in the same way. So I should say that besides that, the athlete side, I would say that as how can I say, a lover, a paragliding lover, I would say that it didn't change a thing. It's exactly the same thing. For me, 90% of what I believe is paragliding is being with friends in the countryside, flying, with freedom. It's not in a competition full of rules, full of, strange energy of your friends, your enemies, people that like you, people that dislike you, people that are cheering for you, people that are against you. So regarding energy, for me, 90% of what I believe is paragliding is when you are with your friends, flying cross country, whatever you are. So for me, October is a sacred month. I only compete and I only search and polish myself as a pilot to fly better in Sertão, in Brazilian Northeast, because I love to fly over there with my friends in our team, chasing world records. For me, is the must of my whole paragliding career. So it doesn't matter if we've flown 461 as in 2007 or 582 as in 2019. For me, what matters the most is the fact that we're among friends, reaching a nice objective, having fun, exploring our limits, our good sides and bad sides, exposing ourselves as human beings to this team. And sometimes we have fights. We have it's so much love between us that you can imagine. It's like men and women,
Man love.
We only don't have sex together, but the rest, everything we do.
Yeah, it's man love. It's a powerful thing, and man love doing what they like doing, which is great,
No. And what I love the most is the fact that we're not using, when we are competing, we're fighting for little advantages. And I think our competition mode is actually dominating us the whole time. Since we're born, we're taught that, okay, you should be better than the guy beside you. And competition brings you this feeling of getting, doesn't matter how, but gets little advantages regarding your enemies, And when we go to Sertão, the spirit of our team and the way we fly is like not avoiding having little advantages, but use your little advantages to help the team. This is our philosophy. And that's why I like so much to fly with them over there.
And Rafa, you mentioned there's something quite interesting, and so you obviously fly as a team, and in paragliding competitions, of which you're really good at. I mean, you've been 3 times Brazilian national champion, a very strong national competition. You won a PWC. You are the latest Pan American champion. You're really good at it. So that is the main difference then. Flying in a gaggle is like flying in a group, but you're not necessarily a team, right? Whilst you're flying in Sertão, you're actually a team. And do Do you use this also in competition now? I mean, this must be a very special dynamic between you guys.
Yeah, it's 90% of similarity between flying in a gaggle and flying in a team. A gaggle can fly as a team also. For example, when we are in a competition day, that the first gaggle, doesn't matter the gaggle, we reach a really stable area with really tricky conditions. A ship just a key just turned off in their heads, in our heads, and another one just shows up. So we stop competing against each other, and we start to help each other. You know, this happens every time in weak conditions in many tasks. Uh, However, the biggest difference between them is that is this matter of little advantages. When we fly as a team, we use these little advantages to help the others, you know, to actually bring the others with you. When we are competing, no, we're actually wanting to have more and more and more advantage regarding the gaggle. So for me, it's different. I prefer to fly as a team because I prefer this community, this sense of a group helping each other than a group trying to beat each other. It's a completely different energy, a completely different approach, and you can learn from one another. As more as I fly in competition, the more I learn. Okay, because when you learn how to compete and obtain and gain little advantages, you actually learn how to not gain little advantages. So the competition helps us to fly in a group, help us a lot for sure.
So for you, competing is just training for cross-country flying. Yeah.
Sorry?
I say that for you, the competition scene is only training for cross-country.
Yeah. In my opinion, yes.
Yeah.
I don't have this dream of winning everything. This came a bit like naturally, because Frankie Brown is my master, and he's like twice vice world champion. He was world champion when I was, I don't know, 23 years old. I think it was when Alex Hofer won. Frankie was vice champion. And so he was really my inspiration. And he was a kind of thermal inversion here in Brazil. Every pilot was reaching him, and he would win. He would win. The guy has like 12 Brazilian titles, you know. He won 12 times the Brazilian tournament. I mean, he had a vice champion generation.
There was the era of Frank Brown where he really dominated. Yeah, he was amazing. He is amazing. Yeah.
So he actually was my inspiration to become a disciplined pilot, and of course I studied him my whole career, my pilot career, studying him to see why this guy is winning, you know, every time. And suddenly I was managing to fly with him and observing him, and then we broke the world record in 2007, and then it took me like 12 years, or I don't know, more than 10 years to actually beat him in a Brazilian national. So he was a really, really high standard of inspiration that led me to until where I am now, you know.
There is an enormous amount of respect between the whole team, and that is beautiful. That is beautiful to see, actually. And do you guys have got like a hierarchy as well? I mean, in addition to the charisma hierarchy, like for example, Frank will always be a master for you, but is there an actual hierarchy on a team to take decisions?
There is no space for democracy in our team. You know, a team that is too democratic, I don't think is going to work. You know, especially because we are competition pilots. We all have egos. We all have, let's say, our own beliefs. So if I want to go right and Samuel want to go left, what's going to happen? So in this kind of activity, you should have a dictator. And our dictator, in our case, it's Marcelo Prieto. He's our oldest. He was one of the founders of our team. Frankie and him started to fly in northeast of Brazil back in the mid 90s. They have the same experience regarding the northeast of Brazil. So, but he's got the most amount of hours by far by any human being in the planet. I believe he's got, like, I don't know, 30 flights above 300, 40 flights above 400. So he's one of the human beings that has flown the most in the world, big distances. So the amount of experience he has and the amount of knowledge to know the right rhythm to fly, which is very important. There is no space for selfishness over there. It's definitely, we have a hierarchy. How can I say the word?
Yeah, hierarchy. Yeah.
Hierarchy. We have that, and we respect that. If I say let's go right, and Marcelo say no, let's go straight, or let's go left, or let's spiral down and land, we spiral down and land. There is no space for ego over there. When we go there as a team, with every one of us, we forget our passes, our titles, our status, or whatever, and we just a cell of this organism that help each other just to reach our objectives.
There is a picking order in this gaggle, and Marcelo is the biggest bird, so he makes the decisions. Yeah.
And of course he's not like the whole time saying let's go right, let's go left. No. Of course we know each other by a long time, and we know how we fly, and we have the aggressive guys like Donizetti, like Samuel, and like me. I used to be the most aggressive before Donizetti arrived, and then Samuel arrived, who is even more aggressive. So sometimes we go and then they follow us because they know that we're taking the right decision. I'm only saying about okay, it's mid-afternoon, we are in the mid-height, we're not climbing well, let's risk. And some of us say, no, wait, we should climb 200 meters more, jump to that cloud. And usually the person that does that is Marcelo.
Excellent. And let's take a few questions that we are receiving here, Rafa. And somebody is asking actually, what does it take? What would you recommend to start mastering those 11 hours or 12 hours of daylight that you can use in Sertão? I mean, what would be the steps that you would recommend him?
I mean, there is no way of learning without going. I think the people just need to go and just need to start to fly there really slowly. Use the security advantage that we have now, which is the towing, that turn the whole concept of the adventure pretty much safer, So in my opinion, the person should only take off and survive, because the wind will make you drift. Every single decision you take to jump from one cloud to another, you don't need rush. You just need to concentrate of surviving. And of course, you're not going to be on the top of a mountain or in a soaring a ridge for half day. I'm talking about making a slow and steady cross-country flight, forgetting the distance, forgetting the numbers. Launch and land in a specific time, and try to fulfill that mission. And it's not just in one flight that you're going to do that. It's like a gym, flying hours and hours and hours is like gym. You have to practice practice and practice and get better every time you do it.
Perfect. Staying up, guys. So not risking too much, and just staying up at first, making sure
Exactly.
that you train the body and the mind to because it's a long way. And you know, as an average pilot, you're talking and I'm thinking, you know, it'll be fantastic to go trying out there. And is it possible? Is it something that an average pilot can try and do? Is there pilots from specific areas that you think will have a better fitting in Sertao? Is something?
Yeah, I think flying mountains and flatlands are completely different. There are two specific skills you actually have to learn. In my case, even though I'm an experienced pilot with so many achievements in my back, if I want to fly properly, for example, sometimes I go to the Alps to fly PWCs, and when I go there, for example, last year we went to Quer de Savoie, and it was a wonderful PWC. I don't go there with dreams of winning and all that. I go there with dreams of learning. So I pick up like 3-4 guys that I like, and I just observe them. And that's what I did to learn how to fly over there properly. And of course, if I want to take my glider and fly the Alps, probably the chances of having an accident are low. But I'm talking about the edge. I'm talking about how to fly, how to perform in the Alps. And I don't have a clue how to perform in the Alps. So I observe who knows how to perform in the Alps. So that's basically what I do every time I go to different places. And I believe like people from Spain, people from Turkey, people from the United States that fly in Texas, and people from Australia, people from South Africa, people from even UK, people that are used to flatlands, all of them just need to tune their experience and just to just go there and face the whole package, Sertão package. I'm sure they're gonna fly well.
That's pretty humbling, Rafa, to hear somebody like you with multiple world records, with PWC wins and everything, to say I don't know everything, you know. And I think that's something very useful for a lot of people that is listening us out there, just to remember that you never know everything, and there's a lot to learn and a lot of good about being humble. And if you don't mind,
but if you consider the fact that I have 3 open distance world record, and if you ask me, how many human beings in the world have 3 straight distance world record? I would answer you 2, me and Marcelo. And then you're gonna ask me, do you know everything about straight distance world record? I say, man, I don't have. I'm the book is only. I'm not in half of the book. I'm on the first third of the book. You know, I'm sure we can fly much better than we fly over there. I'm sure we have so many paradigms that we have to break. I'm sure we have so many myths and barriers, mental barriers, that we have to break. And I mean, our sport is only 30 years old, so those who think that they know everything, they're definitely in the wrong path.
They're missing out. They're missing out. Yes. Yeah. And now that you said that, there's another question here from one of our guests, and they're asking about your preparation in terms of food and hydration. What do you do in these long flights?
This is actually an important issue. I'm not talking about a single day flight. I'm talking about the whole month we spend sometimes over there, because usually we spend like more than 20 days. So you have a cumulative tiredness that really affects us. So we get ourselves really hydrated throughout the flight. One of the most important things is the P tube. Some pilots, they don't like to use it. I don't like to use it. In competitions, I don't use it. I use it only in Sertão, and I hate it. And I should say that it's one of the most important things, because once you use a P-tube, you can hydrate yourself. The only pilot that I know in my life that managed to fly more than 11 hours without peeing is Donizete Lemos. He has flown all his world records, even the 464, without peeing, because he doesn't use a P-tube. I mean, for me, that guy is he's not a human being. Like spend like 11 hours without peeing and hydrating yourself. It's a hell of a mission. So we keep ourselves hydrated. Sometimes we put some maltodextrin in the water to last long. I eat a lot of food from local food, like paçoca, which is a special salty powder of
like a peanut butter, like a peanut.
yeah. It's
Peanut
not
paste,
made of. There is the peanut also, but there is the paçoca, which is made of flour.
Okay.
I mean, it's a kind of
Sweet.
powder that, no, it's not sweet. It's actually
No?
salty, and it's really good with a lot of dried meat on top, and it's really good. So we have some things that we carry to keep ourselves up, you know. So it's not a secret. I mean, regular food, athlete food for long activities, you know. Anything you like, you can carry.
And you said that you do that also in the months leading to October. You start getting yourself. You do this in the month leading to October as well. Do you look after your diet?
No. This is the whole year, because we cannot arrive there like fat or, you know, out of your you know, out of fit. It's really tireful to be there. I'm not talking about flying once, but I'm talking about compromising yourself with the mission of staying there for 30 days with your team and following them for whatever they want to go. So we don't have the freedom of saying, okay, today I'm not flying. We can do that, but I mean, it breaks the whole wheel of the group, you know. So we commit to this, you know. How can I say? We're unite, and we don't want to break the wheel. We have to go together everywhere and make it happen together the whole time.
It's a task that you are accomplishing as a team, and if the day is on, then you want to make sure that you're ready for it.
Yeah.
And in terms of mental preparation and route planning, those two things. And these questions, by the way, are from Nuno Virgili. So,
hey, Nuno. Patrício por aí. What was the question? Sorry.
In terms of mental preparation, if there is anything that you do for mental preparation and in preparing the routes.
Okay, for mental preparation, I think the competitions are already, you know, a whole, you know, book of frustrations that makes you stronger. Over there, also, you have to learn how to be resilient, especially when you are aborting so many flights. I think that's the most important thing now, actually, is this concept of resilience. Because in Quixadá, back in 2007, we would fly every day. We were flying 300 Ks every day. The whole strategy was different. And nowadays, we're aborting so many flights, chasing only one good flight and long flight, and keeping yourself resilient and keeping yourself, you know, motivated. For me, it's the main issue. And there is no way that you're going to arrive there and last until the end if you don't prepare yourself to be patient, to be resilient, to be strong, to react with your frustrations and the bad vibes sometimes you get from your bad flights, you know. And regarding route planning, we do that much in advance. We stay the whole year planning. For example, it took us 2 years to actually realize the route to cross Quixadá, from Tacima. We spent 2 painful years choosing the wrong route, hitting mountains that we're not supposed to hit. And after realizing what we're supposed to do, changed our lives. So it's a year of preparation regarding route planning.
And once you're in the air, Rafa, do you pay a lot of attention at just trying to be tailwind as much as you can, or do you have to follow, or are you very limited by roads and so on?
No, from Tacima, we have paved roads everywhere. I mean, it's really easy to fly there regarding retrieve. So we only go with the tailwind. And of course, in Tacima, the first 120 Ks are a bit tricky. We have dangerous areas, dangerous zones that we cannot land, full of this strong and bad vegetation that they're eager to hurt you. Sometimes you look at them and you say, hey, they want to catch you, So sometimes we have to actually jump lines because of that. So if you take this previous world record, I think it was kilometer, I don't know, 60 or 50. We just jumped from one line to another, like 90 degrees, because of clouds, because of position ourselves. We have to play chess in this first 120 Ks to position ourselves. I think the flying in Sertão is not a courageous flying, a flying that you need to prove yourself as a soldier. Not anymore after we started.
After you cracked it.
No, after we started to tow, nowadays, it's a matter of playing chess. I mean, you have to play chess. You have to position yourself. You have to avoid risks. You have to predict the risks and avoid them. That's how I fly over there. I'm not necessarily brave to say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this. It doesn't matter what's gonna happen. Let's just do that." No. That's not the way of flying there. I think the way of flying there is to study and know exactly what you're doing.
And it's quite nice to listen to you talk, Rafa. And there's something that I want to say to the audience is there is actually a movie out there that Rafael produced. It's called Ciclos, Ciclos. Just look for that movie on Vimeo. There is a lot of really good information already shared in that movie. There's also, I believe, a Ciclos 2 coming up, Rafa.
Yeah. Actually, it's already here. As we talk, I just released the code and the link for the paragliding community to watch in this quarantine season. It's a movie that we were in Saint-Hilaire, in Coupiquet last year, and we went to many festivals in the world, and now we are in this TV phase, and after that I'm going to put in the internet for free for everybody. So it's a movie. It's a movie about the story of our team and the records we broke, the main ones, the straight distance ones.
It's fascinating, actually, especially to see the dynamics in the team there and the great relationship that you guys have got between you. But most importantly, I highly recommend it. If you want to know more about flying in Sertão, you got to watch these 2 movies. Are actually full of really good advice, full of inspiration, especially. And actually, I believe you'll find that if you haven't found anything in this interview, you'll certainly find it in one of the 2 Ciclos. Rafa, maybe a wee thought or something that you would like to share, a piece of recommendation, a word of advice to maybe wrap up this great interview? Anything that you want to recommend to our audience?
No, I just want to say that I'm really proud to see, a Latin, a nation like Brazil, from South America, being a vanguard of this kind of, knowledge and achievements. Since we broke the world record in 2007, Brazil became one of the main spots to broke all the world records regarding straight distance, 3 points, and declared goal. And I'm really proud to see Swiss pilots, French pilots, Andy, Fly with Andy, and so many nice guys, nice people chasing the world record in Brazil right now, and using this knowledge that it took us 20 years to actually develop it. That started with André Fleury in 1996, and it's with us in our hands, extracting the whole potential of our country and bringing the best pilots in the world to it doesn't matter if it's Quixadá, Patu, Açu, Caicó, Tacima, but people are like trying and getting to know this amazing experience, which is flying the Brazilian Santo Sertão, with that humble people that in our Western eyes, they look that they don't have nothing, but when you hang out a bit with them, you realize that they have everything. They have so much that they are willing to share with you, which are principles, attitude, hospitality, in a world that money is dominating every relationship we can have. It's a very true lesson this little part of the world can give us. So thank you for this opportunity to sharing this knowledge here and showing to the followers of Ojovolador all this knowledge that we've developed for the last 20 years.
Rafa, I think we thank you guys, and we are also very proud of having a Latin root, and just Brazil is such a cool thing. I mean, in general, you go to Brazil and it's cool from the moment you get there to the moment you go. It's such a special vibe. And if you get to see these movies of the Sertão, I'm sure you'll be queuing to go there next spring. And thank you, the whole team, for these 23 years of exploring and opening up the world of extreme distance and long flights for us. And it just fascinated. And thank you very much, Rafa. Thank you a lot. It's been a great.
You're welcome.
A pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure to meet you again, my friend. Bye-bye.
Cool. Bye-bye. Well, what can I say? I mean, during this lockdown, really, it's hard to find good moments to enjoy. But the last few days have been actually a bit tough for me. And it's been hard to be in strict lockdown like we are here down in Argentina at the moment. But these kind of moments I really cherish. It's been an absolute pleasure to have the quality of person that is Rafael Saladini talking to us. It's inspiring in more than one way. I hope that you enjoy the same, and we'll see you in the next thermal. Bye for now.